In the camera view, you see a couple of things. This is Permatex Thread Locker Blue. Now this is a non-permanent Loctite type product. And you also see JB Weld bonding epoxy, and these two things are going to help me fix a Model 20. This is the Model 20 that needs fixing, and I'll move it closer in a second. What I've been doing for, I don't know, 4 years or so, is this is the original handle. And I've pulled the bolt out to show you something. But this handle has, the bolt itself has the threads and everything. But the problem with this is a real, probably a factory error. The bolt does not slide in easily. So once this is connected to the machine, which has a threaded hole for the bolt to go in, the handle itself doesn't turn. So as such, whoever originally had this machine, without this wooden part turning, they were constantly unthreading the bolt, because as you turn the handle, if this wooden part doesn't spin, you might as well just hold on to a nail or a bolt or something, and you're pushing it that way. So it broke off several times. This particular machine has a slight bend in the bed plate, so that didn't help. And so these two actions, between the bend in the bed plate and the wooden original, this is an original. You never really see errors from Singer, and this is an error. I can't push that in. It took me a lot to get it out. It's a little bit crooked right now. It means the inner hole is just off a little bit, and so this is not going to work. And all those that situation came up with whoever had this machine. So when I got it, this was broken off, and what I've been doing is putting Loctite on the threads of the bolt and right in here, and I've had to use it the same way with that error. The bolt will stay in with Loctite, but because of that problem not being corrected, the Loctite, this can be undone by unscrewing the bolt anyway, but it doesn't hold as well for a long period of time simply because of that action when you're using the machine. So what I did was I bought a replacement handle, which is just slightly different. It's almost exact, but slightly different from the original, and have already checked that this bolt goes through there fine. And once I put this back together, the wooden part is going to spin. So I think I've mentioned before on one of the email lists that I've been using Loctite, and every couple of months or so I have to put new Loctite on it. The problem with all of this action is that the threads on the inside of the hole are now stripped. And I kind of looked into all the different options I could do to fix this. But really, this was confirmed on the list, a 2-part epoxy is a permanent, more or less permanent bond. And what you do to use this, I'm going to apply it the same way. I'm going to mix these two tubes together, and it'll give me a little bit of a paste with the two components. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in this hole instead of rethreading the machine, which is another option. If you're more handy than I am, you can tap out new threads. but I don't want to get into all of that and buy drills and all of that. So what I'm going to do is put the epoxy on the end of the bolt, being careful not to overlap it and get the handle. The handle has to have enough room to move freely. And I'll put some epoxy in here, and it'll work basically like cement. The bolt will then be permanently fixed to the wheel. And again, as long as I have the wooden handle moving and freely moving, then the bolt should stay in permanently and the wooden handle should turn. And then the only issue I would have is the very slight bend, which I've almost corrected. It's off just a little bit. But little by little I've been bending it out again. So this is what I'm doing today, is I'm finally fixing the Model 20. So I'm going to mix up the epoxy in a second, and I'm going to very carefully put it into this hole, and also a tiny bit, on the end of the thread of the bolt. And you can see there are two sections there. So you really only want to get it on the threads. And, you know, the strange thing is that the original was like this. And I've fiddled with it. I could drill this out a little bit more. But I had already bought the replacement handle, so I'm going to go ahead and do it the easier way. And just put the new handle on with the JB Weld Bond. Now, just to show you the difference, there's the new handle, and this is a lighter, slightly more delicate wood. It might even be basswood or something. It doesn't feel like birch or even pine, but you can see how easily the bolt goes in. But now you see what I meant about the amount of threads that are exposed, because the slight collar to the left of the threads needs to be able to allow the handle to move freely. So if I put it in the machine and like that, you see it's wobbly because the threads are stripped on the inside of the the wheel part. But that plain metal collar let's see if we can get this to focus, that is in between my thumbnail and the threads, has to be free of epoxy so that the whole thing can spin. Now, I could just use this handle and the original bolt, but, you know, like I said, these are about $19.99 for a replacement handle, and I'm not sure how much the JB Weld is, probably under $10. And I've had this for a while. I had to find it actually because I had packed it away. I was saying at the end of the other clip that I have used this product to repair a hand wheel on like a I think it was 1901, it might have been 1890 something, white family rotary that when it arrived, the hand wheel was broken, and I had used this product to repair that, and it worked fine. So it's very strong, and I think this is going to solve the problem on the Model 20. Now, what you do, and this is on the back of the package, you squeeze out equal amounts of each of the chemicals really in the tube, and I haven't mixed them together yet, but I'm going to mix that together, and then I'm going to put it in what is really the socket on the hand wheel of the Model 20, and I'm going to put a tiny bit on the threads on the end of the bolt. Okay, so when you mix it together, it's gray. as you can see there in better light. I'm using a popsicle stick to mix it together. And this is the hole. And it's better to have this probably up like that so that I can get to the back of it and make that smooth and take off any excess. The tricky part, so let's go ahead and put some of that in. The tricky part is going to be just doing the tip of the threads. And my dog is next to me because she's kind of not feeling well today. So if I move the camera, it's because she kicked me. So this is going to be a permanent fix as opposed to a temporary fix. And I want to get enough in the hole so it grabs the whole end of the bolt and not just a little of it. And I've had this for a couple of years, so it seems to have good shelf life. I'm not. I'm thinking faster than I'm talking, so you'll have to just excuse me. So now you see what I'm going to do with it. And again, only the very tip of the bolt, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Okay, I have it on there. It's kind of a fragile application method. You have to be careful. You can see there's a gap, and I probably could push it in a little bit more. I'm sure the Singer Factory would, but I don't want to do that because I really want to be able to turn the knob. Now what I can do, this takes, you have 46 hours set time, and then it's fully cured in 15 hours. So I have to put this now somewhere where it's not going to be moved. And after 4 hours, I can start turning the knob to make sure that that keeps turning. But it's 15 hours before you put it back in use. Now this is on the inside that I still have to clean up a little bit. But I can actually put more bond in there from this end after this is set in place and not going to move. So I will post another video when this has hardened and cured after 15 hours. Okay, I've moved this out into a place where it's not going to get kicked or moved or anything for a little while. And what I did on the inside, which you can see right there, and it's still a little bit, there's a little bit room for more. I used a nail, regular old common nail, put the epoxy on the tip of the nail, filled the hole, and then used the flat top of the nail to draw it up and flatten it out to fill the inner hole. And then I have a piece of paper folded to keep the handle from going, from sagging, but also from going too close to the hand wheel. And then I took a piece of bamboo and cut it so that it props up the handle, so the weight of the handle doesn't hold it down. So I'm going to let all of this sit for about 4 hours. And I won't be using it for 15 hours.